Hello, this is Katrina, and I'm going to talk about William Wordsworth's Daffodils. The poem was written in 1804, so exactly in the same year when Beethoven wrote his Piano Sonata No. 22, which you heard at the beginning of the video. William Wordsworth was born in 1770, which would have made him 34 years old when he wrote the poem Daffodils. The drawing you can see there shows him at the age of round about 34. He died in 1850. Wordsworth helped to launch the Romantic movement, and he's considered one of the major Romantic poets. He was born in the Lake District, which was to inspire him throughout his life. The Daffodils were written 2 years after he took a stroll along the shore of Water on a stormy day with his sister, and you can see Water in the picture. It shows a very wide landscape, nearly in its primary state, without any houses or fences or walls. We're now going to listen to the Daffodils, read by Jeremy Irons.
Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils.
At the bottom of the page you can see a few expressions which might or might not be difficult. The word gay has changed its meaning. It used to mean, in Wordsworth's time, just happy. So somebody who's gay is somebody who's happy. I'm going to summarise the poem. It was written by William Wordsworth in 1804. The poet describes a speaker walking alone along the shore of a lake lined with trees. During this walk, the speaker discovers a large number of yellow daffodils moving in a breeze. Because there's so many of them, they remind the speaker of the Milky Way, a galaxy containing a huge number of stars. The speaker notices that the flowers move more than the rippling waves of the lake. Fascinated by this sight, he cannot turn his eyes away, but doesn't yet appreciate the impact this experience will have on him later on. When at home, lying on his couch, relaxing or musing, the speaker often recalls the sight of the daffodils. He draws a lot of pleasure from this inner image and sees himself dancing with the daffodils. The main idea of the poem is that the speaker is overwhelmed by a sense of elation at the sight of daffodils. This elation grows into a sense of unity and common movement, which can be recalled in moments of quiet recollection and enhanced through the power of the imagination. This idea is conveyed through several means. We have personification. The word crowd normally denotes a huge number of people, whereas here it refers to the flowers, so that's personification. And we have a host, so a large number, or, the term's ambiguous, somebody receiving a guest, and it can be argued that the flowers receive the poetic persona like a guest, and they're even prepared to dance with him. Then we have dancing in the breeze, so the flowers are actually moved in the breeze and by the breeze, but Wordsworth personifies this movement and calls it dancing. Then we have tossing their heads. Flowers don't have heads, so blossoms. That's another personification. And then we have the flowers outdid the sparkling waves in glee. Glee is a very powerful human emotion, so another personification. Then he speaks of the flowers as jocund company, as if the flowers were friends you can have a good time with. And at the end, his heart dances with the daffodils, so that could be a synecdoche, because it's a part of him. The heart fills with pleasure and danceth with the daffodils, so he danceth with them in his imagination. So the personification really reaches its climax here, because there's the sense of the human heart, as it were, or human being united with the flower in dance, which is something absolutely impossible. You can't do this kind of thing, but he can do it through the power of the imagination. Then we have the word field of light. We have golden daffodils, so that's a hyperbolic metaphor, because golden, the flowers are yellow, obviously, so golden is hyperbolic and exaggeration, and a metaphor at the same time, because it's like gold, compared to gold. And then you have a comparison continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. So here we have the word field evoked 3 times, shining, twinkling, and the stars. And it's a hyperbolic comparison again, because there might be many flowers, but certainly not as many as there are stars on the Milky Way. And then we have the sparkling waves, so sparkling in the sunlight, I suppose, and so again that's the word field appearing again at the end. In the last stanza we have a flash upon that inward eye, so it's that same word field again, and it imparts how stunned and pleased the speaker is by the experience. And the last one, you could argue, a flash upon that inward eye, suggests the power of the imagination and the way it can re-invoke this experience. And we have the rhyme and the rhythm of the poem. It's very regular, so we have 4 stanzas of 6 lines, and the rhyme scheme is always the same, A, B, A, B, C, C. So cross rhyme followed by a rhyming couplet, and the rhythm is just as regular. It's iambic tetrameter nearly throughout, so you have I wandered lonely as a cloud. So unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, forming a foot. So I wandered lonely as a cloud 4 times, tetrameter, tetra meaning 4. And then you have a really nice diversion from this in lines 6 and 12, when the dance is evoked for the first time, the dancing flowers. You have a dactyl opening the line, so you have fluttering and dancing in the breeze. The fluttering and is a dactyl and not iambic, so this suggests a waltz, obviously, in terms of rhythm. And did the same again at the end of stanza 2, so tossing their heads in sprightly dance, again finishing off with the iambic rhythm, but starting with a dactyl, suggesting a waltz again, when mentioning the flowers dancing and tossing their heads. Otherwise, iambic tetrameter throughout, and this very regular rhyme and regular rhythm, they both suggest harmony and unity. There's nothing to disrupt, nothing to disturb this sense of unity and harmony the speaker feels at the sight of the daffodils and dancing with them at the end. It's a very romantic poem. It contains really many typical features of romantic poetry. And to conclude, I would like to enumerate these. So we have spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. So the speaker is really stunned by the experience and it's triggered by nature. And that's another important point, that these feelings are not triggered by anything else but by nature. And it's a very ordinary experience. It's nothing you need. I mean, the speaker, anybody can take the speaker's role. Anybody can do what he does in the poem. You don't need to go to university to do it, or be rich to do it, or be fast to do it, or be extremely healthy to do it, or young, or whatever. You can just go out and repeat the experience and have the same kind of feeling. And it's an ordinary pleasure as well, because it's just flowers and nature. It's nothing. It's not the Mount Everest. It's not, I don't know, some high peak of the Alps or something. It's just very ordinary plants or flowers. Yet you can draw so much pleasure from it, and the intensity is enormous. And yeah, it's just a very intense everyday life experience which is celebrated in the poem. And then you have the solitude and individualism in the poem, because it starts off like that. It says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. So in the very first line, the solitary wanderer is introduced, and that's very romantic. And in reality, it wasn't like that. We know that because this poem was inspired by a walk Wordsworth took with his sister, so in the Lake District by Islewater. So we know that he was not by himself, but he transforms this into a solitary romantic experience. Right, and he obviously celebrates the power of the imagination of the poet, who is very susceptible to this kind of experience. Some people might just walk by these little yellow daffodils and not notice them, but the poet notices them, and then he can recollect the experience later on and becomes even stronger than it was in reality, because in reality it was just flowers moved by the breeze on a rather windy day. But in his imagination, he dances with the daffodils, which is absolutely impossible. Nobody can do that, but the imagination can do it. So, and then you have the notions of infinity as well, and freedom, because I mean some of the lines suggest infinity, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. So that's the boundless sky and the boundless galaxy, and they stretch in never-ending lines, so there's no end to them. And the fact that he can dance with the flowers, so there are no limits imposed upon the poet. The flowers seem endless, and the landscape seems endless, and his possibilities seem endless, and no boundaries, no fences, no walls, no streets, nothing to restrict him. And then we have the wanderer, of course, in the poem. That's the speaker is a wanderer, somebody walking, and that's a very romantic figure, obviously. So somebody in contact with nature, and somebody who's free and boundless and gets a sense of infinity and is far away from the city, which Romantics did not like because it restricted people and their individualism and just forced them into patterns and into a kind of lifestyle, and there's a lot of, and it was an alienation from nature, that kind of thing, and was the period of the industrialization. So walking away from all that into nature and reuniting with it, That was a great aim of the Romantics. And so he gets a sense of infinity as well in nature, and the wonder is also reflected in the rhythm of the poem. So walking is this iambic meter, so ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. That's very much reflects a walking person very much. Right, thank you so much for listening to the video. So I'll be playing Beethoven's Piano Sonata again, and goodbye and see you until the next video.